So, anyways, like I said, welcome on in. And what the focus here within the subtopic of how to create a subscription-based program is really what I say is the very first step, which is defining the purpose of your program. We could call it the niche that you serve, because this is the essential thing that makes a program very attractive to people, is when it focuses on a need for a very specific group of people. And that focus can be a million different ways. This is why it's so exciting, because I mean, every person, who is either here live with me or may hear the recording, every one of us has something, some kind of creative idea, solution, thing that we've been through that can create the foundation for a subscription-based program. And so I hope that I want to inspire you, because, sometimes these programs can be, they can be super high ticket. They can be like, I work oftentimes with people in the health and wellness field. I'll talk a little bit about some examples. But I also, have worked with and have some friends that have started really simple ones. Like I have one who has a program that teaches calligraphy. And not simply teaching calligraphy, but it teaches calligraphy as a tool, as a meditative tool for relaxation. In this woman, she had been a nurse in her previous career, very high stress surgery unit nurse. She retired, and she had this, this passion for calligraphy. She just enjoys doing it as a hobby. But then she popped up with a program. And again, the niche, the sub niche, it's not simply for artists, but for people who want to have something that helps them, calm down, something that's enjoyable to do and calming down. So I just say this, like if you're a coach of any sort, or, you're a practice owner, or you've got any kind of creativity and you want to create a subscription-based program, but you struggle with deciding like what to focus it on, or maybe some people have launched programs and they have not been that successful. Well, the discussion today, like I said, is really focused on combining the use of intuition, but also some looking into the marketplace to see what the need is and how you can take your interest and focus it in to serve a particular niche. So, like I said, that's the first place to start. And, the metaphor that I like to use as I guess my jumping off point of inspiration is the notion that sometimes when you're doing things, sometimes you just get an intuitive flash to do something, like to go somewhere, to show up somewhere. Like you just get like an intuitive notion, and you don't really know why you get that notion. Has anybody ever had that happen to them? Yeah. And it's like, I don't know why to go there, but you just get this prompting to go there, and or you get a prompting to go and meet with somebody, and then all of a sudden some magic happens like that you could never have predicted. So this is what I'm going to be focused on today, which is embracing how that magic can happen, how you have like an intuitive awareness inside of yourself that is kind of already speaking to you. And then I want to give you some tools to kind of decipher, in maybe a more logical way, some tools on how to define what that niche is, what that area to focus your topic around. So there's a couple of places that I say to look. Some people will go out and be like, oh, I see, like, everybody's doing this, so I'm going to go do that. And what I say is to go inside of yourself and to look at the things that you really enjoy doing, and maybe the things that you've always enjoyed doing. And sometimes those things, in fact, most often those things kind of appear in our early childhood. And sometimes they can be either a positive thing, being like, oh, I've always, like for me, I always have had this super active imagination. Like my mind can just imagine things like a movie camera. And so this is why I've always worked in the creative fields because my mind can just do that. Like since I was a little kid, this is what I would do. I would like pretend that I was like in a Charlie Brown like movie, like Snoopy and the Red Baron, and I would play out these scenarios. And to the outside observer, it'd be like, "What is that kid doing?" But to me, it was like the whole thing was going on in my mind. I could imagine the entire thing, and it was like so real that it was my entire reality. So that's just been a skill that I've always had. And when I went to choose careers, I had I did this process that sometimes I help people with, which is to figure out what your direction is. Anyways, I went through that process, and by looking back, like what I'm describing, I got it narrowed down to either I was going to go into the film industry or I was going to go into the industry for environmental design, landscape architecture. I ended up choosing landscape architecture, but what they both had entirely in common was this thing that I'm sharing with you about how my mind just has always had that skill. So this is what I would say to you, and it can take some journaling process is to look back, into your early years. Sometimes I say between like, sometimes it appears, between 8 and about, 15, 18 years old, these things that like I always enjoy doing that. And you can even ask people around you, like you can ask your friends or your parents, like what was I always doing? What was I always good at doing? And so this is one of the sources. And I like to, for myself, I like to, to write it down because it's good to get it out of the mind, get it down on paper. And this is one of the places. Um, so so that can be one of the intuitive things. The other thing is could be like even today, like as you are right now, like what do you really enjoy doing? Right? And Joseph has built his entire community around this flow-based prosperity, right? Helping people to basically, tap into this thing of, what do you enjoy doing right now? So that's another place. One of the other places that I have discovered, particularly when it comes to working with clients in health and wellness and transformation, which is kind of the primary markets that I serve right now, is to look at the challenges that you've been through. And if you have gone through a challenge in your life, which we all have of one sort or the other, and you have gotten somewhere on the other side of it, doesn't mean that, typically we don't, it's like, oh, I fixed that thing, it's never showed up again. I'm perfect, I'm God. No, it's more like you go through a challenge and then you build a bunch of tools. Maybe that's in, recovery, or it could be anything, whatever has given you challenges and you've gone through it, you've got onto the other side of it. Well, that means that you know how to help other people do that. And so whatever it is, and I don't know what that is, for either of you on the line right now. But I do have some I do have some well, I kind of have a natural gift in this area. So it's pretty easy for me to to help people to discover this. And again, I don't say like I know what it is for you, but what I do notice, let's say, for example, with you, Pia, I notice you're like always doing this crazy stuff with athletics, right? You're like, I mean, you're like a monster on the in the gym. And so, that could be one of those things. And and I say it jokingly, but I also, like I said, I look at your social media content and it's like, dang, you got some skill there. And so, that could be one of those places. But like I said, looking back to the challenges that you've been through and the things that you've gotten onto the other side of, well, that pretty well means that whether you've gone to school for it or not, really is, in my thinking is not necessarily relevant because when you have gone through a challenge and you have, successfully overcome that challenge, well, that means that somehow inside of you, you've got a set of tools, and those tools are very valuable to other people. So that is the going inside side of things. I say, combining, finding your profitable niche is a combination of going inside. That's where I say to start first. And then I like to give some voice to doing some market research. And this doesn't have to be, like you think, oh, people do marketing research and it's like they got to go to college to know how to do this. Well, the way to do it nowadays is really quite easy because primarily of social media. And so let's say you get a notion like I want to, or I've gone through this challenge, or I've created a list of things that I'm, interested in based on my past, calling or what calls inside of me or what I'm naturally good at. And then you kind of have this, this definition of insight that comes from inside. Well, then one of the places where you can go to is a few places, but one of them is to the Amazon book section. And you can use the search tool in the Amazon book section and drop in to look up any topics that are in this area. And so I'll just toss out, for example, like I notice that there's an enormous need for help in the recovery space right now. Enormous, and that recovery space can be everything from alcohol to cannabis to the street drugs that are, plaguing, countries all over the world right now. Well, that means that there is a need. And so you can go into the Amazon book section and drop in something that is, search addiction recovery, top books in addiction recovery, and see who's writing about it, and see how, what's up in that topic area. And then you'll notice if there's like a bunch of like best-selling books that are coming out that are current, that are right now. Well, I mean, you probably don't need to be a genius to know what I'm saying, which is that there's a big demand for it. But, going online and seeing who else is creating content around this, who is writing around this. And then here is the kind of ninja tactic, which is to go into the review section of the books and see what people are saying in the review section. Because in there, people will say both what they've liked about the books, and they'll also give more valuable, they'll give what they don't like. And what that's kind of a missing thing. That's a missing element. So maybe somebody says, I really liked what they had to say, but it was missing this and this and this, or I didn't like this and this, and that's where the opportunities are. So Amazon Books is a good place. Of course, YouTube is the next best place because it's social media, but it is search driven. So you can do the same thing on YouTube. You can drop into the search tool in YouTube and look into the topic areas that you're interested in. And here's one thing that I will say to never do, because I know this from personal experience, which is to don't compare yourself to what somebody else is doing. Because I know this happens. Like you go in there and you'd be like, oh man, this person has like, 1 million followers and they've written 10 books on it and they've got a PhD. It really doesn't matter. But all we're really wanting to do is to see like, what people are saying in this topic area, what they're interested in, what they like about what this person is saying, and then use that to help to shape the area that you want to build your program around. And so there's some frustrations that I notice that people run into in this topic area because this, like I said, this is the foundation for everything what I'm sharing with you right now, which is choosing an area to focus on. And there's a couple of really big mistakes that people make. The biggest mistake that people make is to not choose a niche at all, like to not focus the your expertise to do anything in particular and to stay very wide focused. And that's okay at the beginning as you're doing what I'm, talking about right now, which is sifting through your ideas. That's fine. But the big mistake, particularly in transformational work, is staying very general and having a million different ideas and trying to, you know, fit all those things into one program. It's really important to be able to focus it onto one thing. And within that being said, there's some frustrations that I've seen people have, and one of those being they can't decide. And so, if you're having that experience right now, you just can't decide. That's just totally normal. Just be totally okay with that. Um, but what you really want is to be able to make a decision and to be able to make a decision and test out a particular area. I'm going to give you some thoughts about how to test out some ideas here. Because yeah, the big mistake is people get stuck in indecision, and connected right to that is not taking action, right? So one of the reasons why I created this community is to prompt people into action because no action you won't get any feedback, right? You won't even know whether it's something you like or not. If you take some action, then you're going to get some feedback. Oh, I like this. Um, I don't really like it that much, or you'll get some body feedback. So just, avoiding that, getting stuck in indecision, and just at some point, and I'm going to give some more. Today is just a little small sliver of what I do to help people because, like I said, this is the foundation for everything. The second frustration is people they'll decide, but they'll waffle. They'll make a decision and decide, but then waffle between this and this and this. And what you really want is at some point at the right moment in time is to go all in on one idea. And the mistake that people make is sometimes they get what I call the shiny object syndrome, and they decide, and then they start, but then oh, I see this over here, I could do that, and they're waffling all the time and trying new things out, and that's a little bit of a recipe for disaster. The last frustration that I want to give some voice to is sometimes people will launch a program because I have clients like this who launch a program, or friends, people that I've seen, they'll launch a program, but you're not getting clients. And of course, what you really want is to get clients, right? And I say because I've been in business my entire life, what I know to be true is that when you have an idea that people want, they buy it almost right away. Like you're able to get clients like almost right away. And if that's not happening, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your idea. There might be something that needs to be adjusted in the messaging to it, in what you call it. And this is a very famous thing that I say all the time, which is what you call a thing is everything. And the best thing to call the thing, which we might say the niche that you serve or the problem that you solve, is to call it the thing that your clients call it. So the mistake that people make sometimes is they call it a clinical term or a technical term, and like particularly in the health and wellness field, they'll use the name of a methodology, and nobody has any idea. Like all the professionals know what it means, but nobody else does. So using like really like the kind of language that sometimes we say, that a 5-year-old would understand. But what I like to say more so is the natural language that your clients use. And you may even notice like, oh, nobody else is doing this. Like, in social media, like, everybody else has got some fancy name to their thing. Well, don't let it fool you because there's a lot of people on social media who are not making any money whatsoever, and they're spinning their wheels, producing a bunch of content that's not really, really generating clients. So what I really want for you is to be able to help you decide in on an idea, learn how to create the languaging, and be able to enroll clients like almost right away. That's the ultimate goal. Because once you can enroll one client, you can enroll a lot more. Once you can enroll one, then you can enroll more. And I really want to give you this encouragement about how simple this process can be. And where people get stuck sometimes is overthinking it or hesitating, like I said, and not taking action on it. If you've got an idea and you've got something that you want to put out there into the marketplace, here's what to do. And here is how this links back to what I was talking about with Substack last week, which is to use social media almost like a journal, almost like a journal where you put your ideas out there and you kind of refine them. And I think I was saying, like in this channel, like when you first create a Substack channel, let's say for a particular niche, let's say you create a social media account for, let's say to help, people in addiction recovery. When you first create something like that, nobody sees it. It's the truth. Like like almost nobody sees it at first. And so you really don't have to worry like, oh, you know, um, am I getting this right or not? Usually people don't really see it that much. And I see, Nessie's dropping on into the chat window and asking, how often do we post on Substack? Well, the answer to that question is it depends. It depends on how often you feel called to do it. What I say is to do it again, kind of like a journal. Like I write in my journal every day. And I generally try to publish some type of social media content pretty much every day. And, again, at first it feels a little awkward, maybe you're not used to the platform, you're figuring things out. Don't let any of that get in your way. It's just like poetry, right? It's like, maybe you scribble it on some paper first and then you try it, drop it on into Substack. Um, And so, yeah, that's my answer to it. The other answer I want to give to you as well is this notion too, around social media channels and which one to use. Because Substack is a new one for me, and it's newer for a lot of people. That's why I've been bringing some attention to it because I mean, there is a lot of people on there. That's why I'm bringing attention to it, but it's not cluttered with ads like Facebook is. And it also collects people's emails. People can subscribe to your channel, and now not only are they getting notifications in the Substack social channel, but now you can also um, uh, check the box that says also send this to their email, which is I mean, that's like really genius. Whoever, designed Substack, they did exactly what I'm talking about. They looked at other social media channels and what's missing. Well, for most people, you gotta, maybe you can set up your free social media account, but now you got to go buy an email, provider tool to send emails. Well, Substack brought that all together into a free channel, and you can also have paid subscriptions. And so I was showing an example, I think last week, of this herbal expert. She's a truly an expert on herbalism. Like she's doing her PhD right now. So she's like a master of herbalism. She has got a Substack channel. and you can join it for free, get a lot of her content, but you can also pay and get closer access to her, get more of the content. So I immediately like sign me up. Now, my only um, critic or critical thing about this is the price is so low. And when you have a good idea and you know how to find the market that wants that thing, what I generally like to help people to do is to create high ticket programs. Now, it's not to say that's the only way to go, but what I have discovered is that it's about as easy to enroll a high ticket client as it is, a smaller, monthly subscription. But there's places for both of them. And like I was saying, with Joseph's channel, he's at $147 a month. It produces 8 grand a month of monthly recurring revenue, which is not bad. That's not too bad, for about 4 hours a week of his work. I will contrast that, though, to a high ticket program and just give you an example of one of my clients that I helped to launch a program for later stage diabetics and diabetes, high blood pressure, um, obesity, at least in America, anyways, is rampant. So that means there's a great need for these things. Anyways, I helped her to launch a lifestyle medicine program, subscription based, but it is over the course of 12 months. So it's a 12-month lifestyle medicine program. And the cost for each person to join is $5,000 for the year, or they can pay on a weekly or monthly basis. And so when you break that amount down to a weekly basis, well, it's about $120 a week. And for somebody who is dealing with a major health challenge and they're either going to see a therapist or a, medical provider, that's a very small amount of money. And anyways, I helped her to launch that program. And within 30 days, she had enrolled 10 clients into that program at $5,000 each. So that was a $50,000 um, deposit into her bank account. And she primarily was able to do that with such ease for a couple of reasons, because she's a chiropractor. She already had a group of clients that were already coming to her on a weekly basis for these problems. And so they're already paying her, $120 or so per week. She just created a much more comprehensive way to not only get her basic help, but also to help with movement and electrical stimulation, TEM stimulation. But the long and the short of it, $50,000 got deposited into her bank account on the first launch of that program. So there's a variety of pricing levels and ways to do it. But I say all of this to, give you encouragement that this notion of a subscription-based program can not only provide a prosperous income for you, but it can also provide it in such a way where you have to work very small amount of time. Like Joseph does his group, about 2 hours, 2 times a week, which is kind of a lot compared to most people. So that's about 4 hours of his time per week that is required for him to generate that, $8,000 of monthly recurring revenue. And so anyways, these are all different, different examples of it. But I'm just going to wrap up and say, if you have any other questions, drop them on into the chat window. And I want to say that, remember, to follow your intuition. Follow your intuition, go inside, look at what you enjoy doing, any challenges that you've been through already. Capture that in some way. I like to say, in a journal. And then, the way to turn that into a stream of monthly income that allows you to work from anywhere too, gives you the freedom to live anywhere, is to create a subscription-based program. choose a niche to serve, and then use social media to test out your ideas. So even though maybe you're not ready, maybe you are ready. If you're ready, then great. But if you're just testing your ideas out, use social media, use other tools to test the ideas out. And the last thing I'll leave you with is that within this community, like some of these resources, like this live stream that I'm doing right now, are absolutely free and open to you. I encourage you to use this platform to share your ideas, share your Substack link when you get it launched and everything. You don't have to wait for it to be perfect. Get some feedback within this community. And then coming up very soon, I'll show you within the platform here what School can do. And School is a pretty nice little platform for doing subscription-based programs. But I am getting ready to launch out this group program called Soul Strategy Syndicate, and it will be a paid program at a low ticket price. I haven't decided what that price will be yet. It'll be probably less than $100 a month. And I'm going to be launching it here pretty soon with a series of workshops that are more in depth around this topic of how to refine your ideas, get your inspiration for the niche, and then how to actually create your monthly recurring revenue subscription program. So like I said, I don't have that launch date quite figured out yet, but stay tuned within the One True Calling community. I will certainly do another live stream the same time next week, so Tuesdays at noontime. And then, like I said, just engage in the community. If you got questions over there or things that you're working on, you got other social media channels that you're working on, feel free to share and ask for feedback there. So that's what I got here for you today. And thanks for being. Spread the good word. Invite friends that you may think would benefit from this One True Calling community, because that's one of the things that makes everything work so well is when we get to do these things together and create a community. It makes it a lot more enjoyable, fun, and we just get the support. So thanks for being with me here today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.